Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Storyteller's Corner. I'm your host, Joshua T. Calkins-Treworgy, also known as Barton Sidious. And today, I'm going to be doing another book review. This one is for a 2021 novel, or rather novella, The Nothing That Is, by Kyle Winkler. Some few of you may recall that when I did my review of B.R. Yeager's Negative Space, I mentioned that there were a couple of other titles recommended in conjunction with it by the folks over at Reddit. I know, why would anybody who isn't a furry with a fetish for poo play and being pegged by a pre-op trans person while begging her, him, zer, it for chicky nuggies and a cold White Claw bother asking the fully loaded retards who typically populate that trash house site for any legitimate, reliable responses? Well, because it turns out that some of the folks there can offer the occasional useful nugget of good information. The Nothing That Is was among a trio of titles recommended when I went seeking bleak, weird fiction recommendations along the lines of the cosmic horror works of Lovecraft, Michelson, Straub, and Vandermeer. After coming away from Yeager's navel-gazing and largely pretentious effort in Negative Space, I was prepared to be mildly disappointed again. Quite nicely, my low expectations were much exceeded, however. Winkler's tale may not be winning any awards for literary or genre excellence anytime soon, and that's actually something of a shame. It is a damn good read for weird/cosmic fiction written by a modern author. The breakdown. You alright, monkey? Mm-hmm. Sorry, my son's got a little bit of a cold. And he wants to stay close because he's not feeling the greatest. My breakdown. Preface notes. Before delving into my breakdown, a few quick asides. Firstly, The Nothing That Is not a lengthy read. Technically and mechanically, it would be classified by word count as a novella bordering on a short novel. As such, I will be taking greater pains than usual to avoid too many spoilers, because a few deep observations on a story of this brevity can do it damage if people read or listen to a review first. Secondly, for such a quick read, I should have logically been able to blitz through this a lot earlier, but I've been supplementing my usual reading time with video games and horror movies throughout the month of October. Oh, and doing my own fiction writing, so still, sorry about that. Lastly, I know almost nothing about author Kyle Winkler, and what little that I did learn with a quick search, I would prefer to set aside and, for the time being, willfully ignore. I often stand in support of the concept of separating the art from the artist, because I believe that it's disingenuous to hold an artist's creative works in a different light based upon their personal lives, personal views, or outside of their works, their personal utterances. And by that, or rather with that, I'm looking at you, every liberal or progressive who loved all things Harry Potter until J.K. Rowling declared her recognition of biological differences in the sexes of human beings, and then turned around and tried to boycott and dismiss her for, quote, trans-istophobia. Yeah, fuck all of you. And now, on with the breakdown. Characters. 9 out of 10. Being a first-person point-of-view narrative, readers spend most of their time with narrator Cade McCoy, an assistant manager for Starlight Catering, a sizable and successful catering company. Cade is a well-developed narrator character, even though his physical description of himself is nearly absent altogether. However, his conveyance of the other characters throughout the story, their physicality, and their personalities, really brings them to life, and makes this cast, the tale, quite memorable, especially Big Jim Keller. Plot. 8 out of 10. Without risking giving too much away, there's a kind of explosion at a cemetery at the very start of the story, one that decimates the groundworks and, the actual terrain of that cemetery as Cade is on his way to work. Yet, it leaves behind no corpses or coffin debris. Believe it or not, in the early running of the story, this is odd, yes, but is sort of mild compared to the oddities and weirdness that comes along later in the story. That should give you an idea of how other this tale is, and it is done quite beautifully. It doesn't rely on Art Nouveau bullshit tactics or pretension either, which is rather refreshing. World-building mechanics, 8 out of 10. Being set mostly in our own everyday world, but at some unclear part of the late 80s/early 90s, some of Cade's details gave me a heavy sense of nostalgia, bordering on flashbacks. It is well-written little details like the use of answering machines, and the total lack of net speak and character dialogues that make the story work great in the world as established by Winkler. Narrative voice, 9 out of 10. Narrator Cade is no highfalutin genius or yuppie, and his down-to-earth vocabulary, coupled with his wit and ability to be detailed in his actual awareness in areas of conveyed expertise, as well as his seeming ability to convey in a matter-of-fact style, the observations of oddities that match his prior vocabulary and affect. He's able to convey the positive, high-end state of weirdness of events as they unfold in a way that is perfectly matched to his personality as established earlier in the story. This is simply superb. This element of the book is damned near perfect. Pacing, 8 out of 10. I would have marked this area a 9, but due to the shorter length of the work, there was one element of the story's overall pace, one highly vital scene that felt a little too rushed and bare bones to reach that extra point to make it a 9. Beyond that, though, Winkler's novella is pitch perfect in terms of timing and developmental beats. It was masterfully handled. This averages out to roughly an 8.5 for our total numerical value score. My conclusion. The Nothing That Is may have been published just a few years ago in 2021, but it carries the cosmic horror weirdness of works like Lovecraft and Matheson's once did in their era, and does so without any sense of smug superiority. It stands on the foundation of those earlier works and skillfully brings their trappings into the modern-day market, offering a whole new crop of readers the chance to lose themselves in the existential dread and absurdity that this subgenre has been robbed of for a long time, or at the very least that I had come to believe wasn't much on offer nowadays outside of Jeff Vandermeer's Southern Reach trilogy. If you enjoy horror, oddity, absurdism, or even just something new and unexpected, I highly recommend getting a copy of Kyle Winkler's The Nothing That Is. And that's all for me for now, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I ask that you take care of yourselves, and as always, keep reading.